Hi everyone, welcome. Lovely to see so many of you. So obviously an opportunity today, this really is around how to make sure you're fully prepared for your EPA. We've got some really good tips in there for you, and we just want to give you a real good overview of what to expect as you go through your endpoint assessment journey as well. So we do some introductions first of all. So I'm Helen. So I head up the operations for FuturU. So I work very closely with a lot of your training providers to make sure that they have all the information that they need to support you as you enter endpoint assessment, and really to make sure that that journey is successful for them and for yourselves as well. So you may not deal with me directly, but I certainly deal with a lot of your assessors and the main training provider. Nia?
Hiya, so I'm Nia and I'm the EPA coordinator at FuturU. So if you've ever got any questions or anything with regards to your endpoint assessment or any upcoming bookings, I'm probably the person that you'll get in contact with. So I kind of deal with the day-to-day, making sure the assessments are running smoothly, here to answer any queries from yourselves as learners or our providers. So yeah, that's me really.
Elaine?
Hi everybody, so I'm Elaine, I'm one of the lead IQAs here at FuturU. I tend to get involved around the maintaining of the quality of the qualifications that you complete within the endpoint assessment. I work closely with the IQA team to ensure that everything goes smoothly for the qualifications and that we're fully prepared with all the materials you need to obviously undertake your endpoint assessment. When you finish, obviously, your endpoint assessment, it is quality assured at that stage, and that's where the IQAs and myself will check, obviously, the assessments that you've completed, and then hopefully release certification.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Alex. So just in terms of what we're going to cover today, just so you know, and obviously, as Alex said, any questions that you have, feel free to pop in the chat and we'll have a Q&A session at the end. So we'll take you through sort of the journey of your EPA, what to expect from the point of us receiving the documentation from your training provider, what to expect on the day of your assessment, how to prepare for your EPA, how to calm your nerves, and there's some tips in terms of really kind of how to excel as best you can within your assessment as well. We've put together some frequently asked questions that may cover some of the questions that you have, but as I mentioned, we'll also have a separate Q&A thereafter as well. So just as a bit of an overview, so you kind of know what to expect and what happens at what stage. So the first part of us getting involved is when we receive what's called gateway from your training provider. So that is all the documentation that we need that you would have put together with your assessors and your training provider at different stages, and particularly as you're heading towards EPA. So we will receive that. We'll make sure that covers everything that we need, and we will get that gateway completed. At the point of that gateway getting completed, you will receive an invitation to book your assessment. So that will come via an email, and there will be links that are specific to the particular assessments that you're undertaking. And then after that, you'll get confirmation. So as soon as you've made your bookings, you will get confirmations. A couple of things probably to add in here as housekeeping of things that we crop up for us. So particularly with the level 2s and 3s, for any of you that are on here, you'll have two components, one being a multiple choice test, and the second being a professional discussion. Just to make you aware, the SJT, so the multiple choice test, does need to happen before discussion. You can book both at the same time of booking, but the dates and time of the SJT does need to be prior to the professional discussion. So you'll get your date confirmed, and then obviously at the same time we will be sending you any resources that are relevant to you doing some revision prior to the assessment as well. So you'll have links that are sent to certain areas to practice the situational judgment test, for example. You'll also receive, some of you, a link to access the assessment plan as well. So all of that will be aiding your revision that you're already doing with your assessor as well. And then on the day or just prior, you'll get a call from our assessor that will be delivering your assessment. Now that's an opportunity for them to make introductions with yourself, It's an opportunity for you to answer and ask any questions that maybe have just popped up, you know, in the process. And also to just make sure that your devices are working properly, you've got all the links that you need, and then that you're ready to go ahead. So do expect that call. It will come from a mobile number. So it will be a number that you don't recognise, but it will happen, like I said, the day before or the day of the assessment. You will join the assessment remotely, and it will be via Google Meet, which is what you have joined now. So you'll get sent the link, and you will access it exactly as you have done today. You'll go through your assessment components, and then any of the grading that happens thereafter and your results will go directly to your training provider. And that is for them to have discussions with you around your grades, give you any feedback that you need. And then we will then move into the next stage, which is obviously certification thereafter.
So to prepare for your EPA, it's important that obviously prior to actually undertaking the assessments, there are a few things that you can do to support that process. So once you get the links, as Helen said, go on the links, complete any mock materials that are available for obviously the standard that you're doing and the assessment method that you're doing. They will be as close to the real thing as possible. So I can only emphasise that completing your mocks is a very important part of obviously preparing for your endpoint assessment. Checking in with your training provider, speak to them if you're unsure about anything within there, go back to them, ask the questions. They have access to obviously all of our materials as well and can guide you in the correct ways and support you if you do have any concerns or issues that are raised. You'll also receive, as Helen said, the link to the assessment plan. Go on there, know what it is you're being assessed against, understand the assessment methods that are in there, you know what you need to prepare for, know what you need to understand to be assessed against, and spend some time just looking at things. The more prepared you are, the easier the assessment will go on that day and the less nervous you'll feel about it. Some assessments that you do, such as the professional discussions, you are allowed to have notes with you during the assessment. Now that is 2 sides of A4, so 1 page of A4 both sides completed, or 2 A4 pages but a single side, but it needs to be in note form. So think about exactly what it is you want on those notes. You know, are there any little parts that you may forget? Is there any kind of reminders that you want on there? Just make sure they're the sort of things that you're putting in those notes, but understand that the notes need to be bullet points. You can't read straight from your notes during your assessment. So if you were to go on and there's, you know, big paragraphs on your notes, then you wouldn't be able to use those during that assessment. But reading the assessment plan, it will tell you that information as well. So it's important that you do go on there. And I think Alex has also copied the QR code into the chat for you.
And I would just add around notes as well. Please do take the opportunity to bring notes. We do see it on a regular basis where people unfortunately don't always take that opportunity, but please do. It's there for a reason. It's there, like Elaine said, not to have paragraphs of information, but to just have bullet pointed notes that really just do jog your memory on certain things.
So on the day of your assessment, Helen obviously mentioned that our assessors will be sending you the link to join a Google Meet to complete your remote assessment. You'll get that usually 48 hours to 24 hours before your assessment. So if you do want to try and join the link just to make sure that the device you're planning to use works and is compatible with Google Meet, you can feel free to do that. You also need to be in a quiet, undisturbed space so that exam conditions can be maintained. So that's always worth keeping in mind, whether you're doing your assessment from home or from your workplace. You can do it from wherever you feel most comfortable. But yeah, as mentioned, you do just need to have the appropriate environment and make sure that there's no photos or anyone relying on you during that time so that you won't be disturbed. Also, as mentioned, the assessor will give you a call just to introduce themselves and kind of talk you through everything. As mentioned, it is a chance, so if you do have any last minute questions or anything along those lines to ask your assessor, they're there to support you as well. And if you do have any technical issues with joining the call for your assessment, they're there on hand to kind of support you with that side of things as well. At the beginning of each assessment, you do need to show a form of photo ID. So if you're completing 2 assessments, you will need to have your photo ID for both parts. So I would just make sure that you've got that ready to show your assessor at the beginning. And then once that's done, you can put that to the side. So whether it's like a passport, driving license, or like a work photo ID badge, they're all acceptable. Anything with your photo and your name on it, really. And if you don't have any form of photo ID for any reason, just contact us beforehand and we can always sort something out for someone to join the call to verify your ID.
So calming nerves. So we understand that everybody gets nervous when going into assessments. We all do. But obviously our assessors are aware that people are nervous, and you know, we do have a good bunch of assessors who will support you with this and do understand the conditions of assessment, and that people do come into it a little bit worried, a little bit anxious, and they will do their best to obviously put you at ease throughout the assessment. That's also one of the reasons why the pre-call is very important, because it gives you a chance just to speak to the assessor beforehand, hearing their voice. You know, it's not a stranger then when you're actually connecting on to the actual assessments itself. But there are some things obviously that you can do to obviously help that. Like saying before, practicing your assessments, or practicing the assessment methods. So if it is a situational judgment test going on, completing mock ones, the more you familiarise yourself with it, the less daunting it'll be on the actual day. Obviously, professional discussions, if that is part of the assessment method, you will obviously complete those through your qualifications with your training providers. You will also complete mock materials around professional discussions with your training providers beforehand. But there's nothing wrong with you speaking to somebody, you know, maybe a work colleague, even a family member, and just getting them to talk to you about your job role and what it is that you do, because there is no trick questions in the actual assessments. It is what you do, but being comfortable at talking about what you do is very important. The night before, it might sound obvious, but try and get a good night's sleep. You know, if you're tired and you're not fully attentive, you might miss things, you might forget things, you know, so give yourself the best opportunity to be ready for that assessment. Make sure you've got everything as well on the day, you know, have everything to hand, such as your ID, a drink. Make sure you've used the toilet if you need to beforehand, you know, so that once you get into there, you can focus on the assessment itself. The environment is very important. You know, you don't want any distractions while you're doing your assessment. You want to be able to remain focused on the task that you're doing. As Nia said, test the links, make sure, you know, your device is working, you've got a charger or it's charged, your internet signal is okay. You know, sometimes I know in my house, certain parts I would not do an assessment in. So being prepared in that way can help as well. The last thing you want to do is drop out in the middle of your assessment, because that will cause you to worry and panic. But if that does happen, the assessors are there and they will support you through that. So even with those sort of things, we will definitely be on hand to help you. Yeah, and believe in yourself. It's the end of your learner journey. You know, you've done all the work prior. This is the final assessment. You've got that far. You can do the last couple of bits just to get it all signed off and completed. So we've put together some tips to maximise your grade. It is one thing that we get asked quite a bit, of how can I get the best grade possible within my assessments. So within the assessment plan and the standards themselves, which you should be familiar with from completing obviously qualifications with the training providers, there are certain command words that you need to meet within there. And knowing the difference between these will maximise that grade. So if certain command verbs are in there, such as evaluate, compare and describe, know the difference of those, because to evaluate something is obviously in more depth than actually describing it. So it's not a bad thing to actually Google command verbs or command words prior to the assessment and just familiarise yourself with what they are. Make sure that you're giving a detailed and thorough answer to any questions or even discussion points. Putting in examples from what you do on your day-to-day roles is one of the best things you can do within there. So it's looking at, you know, what you are actually discussing. So the topic, let's say it is communication. You're talking about communication, putting an example of a time you've done whatever it is you're talking about at that time, because you will generate a lot more evidence naturally. Make sure that you're showing depth of knowledge. So things like legislation, policies and procedures. There's something that a lot of people will use notes for, just jotting down different names of legislations just as a kind of a prompt for yourself. But then also thinking back to the previous part, if you're mentioning legislations, then tell us an example of how you put that into work practices. Again, then being detailed, one of the tips for that, pretend the assessor knows nothing. You know, they are experienced, but just pretend on that day that they know absolutely nothing and you are telling them for the first time, and you won't go too far wrong because you'll automatically put detail in there. So highlight your role, you know, tell us about what you do, how you do it, and why you do these things. You are the ones that are doing these things day in, day out. So showcase what you are doing. Share those experiences. Think of the different things that you do. You've quite probably dealt with a million different things, and they're the things that we want to hear about. So make sure you know your assessment times. You know, how long is your PD for? Use every minute of that PD. You won't be able to go over the time, so think about how you can effectively get as much into that as possible. So use examples that, you know, may cover more than one topic. Is obviously a good way of obviously maximising the time and what you are saying. And again, as previously stated, practice for your mock assessments, and then yeah, they shouldn't be as daunting for you.
Thanks, Elaine. We just put something in here, obviously, to capture what learners do say. So just so you guys are aware, at the end of your assessment, you will be given an option to complete a survey as well to give us some feedback. That's really, really crucial for us. We take every bit of feedback that comes from all of our learners to, you know, improve our processes, to look at how we can, you know, share more information with you, how we can, you know, make that experience better for you. So do please do that. But I just wanted to add in here kind of what people are saying about us, and exactly this learner reiterated everything that we've said today. Try not to worry. Easier said than done. It was really about making sure that they're there to help you pass. Like Elaine said, they're not there to catch you out. These assessors have been there, done it themselves. They are there to make sure that this is a successful journey for you. Like she said, just go for it. We're here to help you. So we love hearing stuff like that. So please do share your experiences after your assessment as well.
Just pulled together some questions that we get quite often from learners who come to us to do EPA. So one of the main questions is, obviously everyone's waiting for their results once they've completed. So will you get your results on the same day? So if you are completing a situational judgment test or a knowledge test with us as a part of your endpoint assessment, once you complete your test, you will get a pass or not pass message. So you'll know straight away whether you've passed your test or not. And then we will send results to your training provider, more detailed results within 48 hours of that assessment being done. If you're completing any professional discussions or observations with us at level 4 or 5, there is a 10 working day turnaround on those results. So you won't get your results straight away. They'll be written up, they'll go through our quality assurance process, and then they'll be sent to your training providers within 10 working days, who will then let you know from there. And then we'll let you know of any feedback that we've given with regards to your assessments as well. And then for any level 2 or level 3 healthcare team leader apprenticeships that you might be completing with us, we've got a 5 working day turnaround on any other results for those standards. So it's the same process. We'll send them to your training provider, and then they'll be in contact with you to let you know as well. Another question that usually crops up is, how long do you have to wait to get your certificate? So obviously once you complete and pass your endpoint assessment, we'll claim your final certificate from there. We do have to allow for a 10-day appeal window. So if you're not happy with your result for any reason, you can appeal to us. Hopefully that's not the case and you'll be very happy and then we can claim your certificate after the 10 days are over. The Apprenticeship Assessment Service, who we claim the certificate through, they usually advise like a 15 working day turnaround to get that printed and delivered. So I would say from your final assessment, it would be about 4 to 6 weeks before you get your final certificate. And then where does your certificate go? So it depends on where your training provider advises us to send the certificate. So that will either go directly to your training provider and then they'll send it out to you from there, or it will come to your employer's address and then your employer can then share the certificate with you from there as well. If there is a situation where you're maybe leaving your employer and you're not sure if you'll be able to get your certificate, just feel free to get in contact with us or your training provider and we can always amend the address if necessary as well. So what happens if you don't pass your assessment first time? So there is the opportunity to resit the assessment. The way that works is we'll obviously let your training provider know of your grade and then we'll give them some feedback. So that includes some things that you did really well and maybe some missed opportunities where you can improve for your resit. The idea is then that your training provider will put a support session in with you. And then as soon as you feel ready and confident that you've done the revision and preparation necessary for your resit, they'll then contact us and let us know that you're ready to get booked in, and then we'll contact you again to find a suitable date and time for you to complete your resit. And then the final question, what do you do if you need to cancel or reschedule your assessment? Quite a simple answer really, just get in touch with us, most likely me, and then we can get the planned date you want to cancel down and then we can get you in for another date that suits you better.
Fantastic. Great. So handing over to you guys now, if there's any questions that you may have in addition to what we've shared.
Fantastic. Thank you, Helen, Elaine and Nia. We've got plenty of time for your questions, so please feel free to add them into the chat, or you can also raise your hand if you prefer to come off mute and ask a question that way. Just in the meantime, just to let you know, in case you haven't seen, I've been adding links as we've been going along into the chat. So you can read our blog about what to expect before, during and after your EPA, and our article on how to calm nerves. Lots more detail on that in those two blogs. I've also shared Becky's full story if you'd like to hear from an apprentice who's been there and done it and come out the other side. And also I've added a link, I've added the email address, epa@futurU.ai. So if you do have any questions that you'd rather ask privately, or if you need to get any clarification on anything later on, then you can use that email address. Okay, we've got a couple of questions coming in. So the first one is from Safina, asking, can we write in short sentences in bullet points, or does it have to be like under 5 words per bullet point on the A4 paper we write on for our notes?
So there's no word limit on your notes in that way, but it can't be full paragraphs. It needs to be bullet points. You are obviously allowed to write kind of a sentence within those bullet points, but just be aware that if you start joining the sentences up and it starts becoming a piece of writing on the piece of paper, then that won't be allowed in there. One of the main things with the notes and why we say bullet points is because the last thing you want to do is use your time looking down at your piece of paper during your assessment. It needs to be something that you can glance at and go, right, okay, yeah, so, and carry on. It's not something that you want to spend time having to actually read while you're doing your assessments, because that'll distract you from the topic you're actually talking about. So yeah, bullet points is definitely an easier way to go because it's easier for you. Some learners that we have, they like to colour code their notes. If that's something that works for you, then by all means you can do that. They are your notes to use. Some will use abbreviations and things like that. Again, that's fine. As long as you can understand your notes, that's what they're there for.
Thank you, Elaine. Sang, I can see you've come off mute. Do you have a question for the team?
Yes. I'm trying to see with the level 5, the assessment, is it you talk, because I'm if I can get you right, you say both points, both assessments. Yeah, both parts here. Does it have part 1 and 2? Can you hear me?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Do you want to go, Helen?
yeah. Sorry. So you were saying. So are you doing level 4 and 5, Sang? Are you? Or
Level 5.
level 5. Yeah. So in regards, what was the question about level 5?
He said, I heard you saying both parts.
Yeah.
Does the assessment has part 1 and 2, or?
Yes. So there's 2 elements to the level 5 assessment. There's a professional discussion and
Okay.
there's an observation. They can be done either way round. Your training provider will be working with you on organising kind of an activity proposal for your level 5. And then also you can obviously speak to your training provider about preparing you for the professional discussion as well. But there's two elements. So when you go into book, you will see essentially you can go into each element and make bookings.
So both elements is done on the same day, at the same time?
Don't have to be, so you can do them on separate dates. We do recommend, particularly for the level 4s and 5s, because they are quite lengthy assessments, we do recommend to do them on separate days. However, we've had learners that preference is just do it in one day, get it out of the way. So that's absolutely fine for us as well. You just make the bookings based on your availability. What I would say is with the observation, you do need to have at least 2 attendees in addition to yourself. So that will obviously then dictate when you book it based on their availability as well.
So the observation is you prepare my own topic and then talk about it with the 2 people while you people are observing, or?
Elaine, do you want to go into a bit more about the activity?
Yeah, so for the level 5, the observation needs to be an observation of you leading something. So it could be such as maybe a training session that you're leading with your staff, or maybe it's kind of like a meeting where you have identified something that needs to change and you're sharing that change with your members of staff. It could be a multidisciplinary meeting. It all depends on what kind of workplace you work in and what you do within your role. As a level 5, there's quite a few different types of meetings and things that you do with staff and obviously other agencies, and it's those sort of things that you can obviously be observed on your level 5 and also the 4.
And then after the observation, would that be the one-to-one question and answers?
Yeah, so there is a question session after the observation. So obviously there are some set questions that need to be completed and they're documented in the assessment plan, but it also gives the assessor a chance to ask anything that they want you to elaborate on. So during the assessment, they will come on, they will observe exactly what you do, and then if there's anything they're unsure of or anything they want clarification on after the observation, then they will ask that within there.
So what would this professional discussion be based on?
So your professional discussion is obviously a separate assessment method. So it might be on the same day that you've booked your observation. It could be on a different day. That's completely up to you and what works with your role and what you're doing and your home life and everything else. But your professional discussion will be based on the standards for the qualification that you are doing. The assessor will ask you to discuss different parts of your role, ask you regarding different topics relating to your role, but it's all based around standards that you should have been working on towards during your obviously qualification with your training providers as well, and they're all available. They're out there, they're on the assessment plans. Google the standards for your qualification if you haven't already got them, or ask your training providers. You should have a copy of those already.
Fantastic. Thank you for your question, Sang. Next question is from Laura. How long does the professional discussion usually last?
That depends on obviously which level you're doing, because each standard has slightly different assessment times and methods within them. For level 2s and level 3s, the professional discussion is 45 minutes. For level 4 and level 5, it is 90 minutes. So again, knowing that and preparing efficiently for that time to be able to obviously talk for that length of time. You know, you need to do some practice as well. On the day, I can probably guarantee it'll probably go quite quickly. You'll be surprised at how quick 45 or 90 minutes can go. But yes, definitely preparing for that. But all those sort of details are within the assessment plan for the qualification and standards that you're doing. So definitely read those beforehand.
Thank you, Elaine. A question from Sam. How long should it be between receiving the gateway details and then getting the invite?
Nia, are you happy to answer that?
Yeah, so as soon as we receive your gateway paperwork and our quality team approves that and they're happy with everything that's been submitted, that is essentially the trigger for the email being sent to you to book in for your endpoint assessment. So you should receive it immediately once we've approved that paperwork, and then that will go alongside any revision material we have for you as well, which will also come by email.
Fantastic, thank you, Nia. A question from Claire. Do you have any tips for aiming for distinction at level 5? Is it all down to the command verbs?
It is partly down to the command verbs. Obviously, there is a big difference, as I said, between describing something and evaluating it, and knowing the difference between those will get you a higher grade. A lot of it is about the detail you put in there as well. So level 5, for example, you know, you talk about theorists within there quite a bit in the qualification, in the standards, it's in there. Naming a theorist is one thing. Naming a theorist and explaining to me how you use that theorist in practice, there's a big difference. And obviously that is where, you know, your grading can obviously change within there. But look at the standards, look at the assessment criteria that you are going to be assessed at for each assessment point. And that's when use your notes to make sure you're putting the bullet points that are really going to help you within there. It will all link together, but you really need to look at that assessment plan and the standards as well.
Thank
And
you.
I think, sorry, I was just going to add to that. We're doing a lot of work at the moment as a team around, you know, what we can be doing to support to achieve those higher grades. So we're always open as a team to work directly with your training providers, to link in with our quality team, to share ideas and stuff like that. So hence why we're kind of putting these sort of tips together, and we'll be sharing more as time goes on as well.
Yes, we're trying to do that as well. Sorry, I just wanted to say that.
No, that's all right.
We're aiming to, yeah, because distinctions are quite few and far between at level 5 and 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can link in Claire separately as well, just
Yeah.
to support around that as well.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question from Sam. If you don't pass, you mentioned about getting feedback. Does that happen naturally, or do you need to apply to get the feedback?
So that does happen naturally. So we, at the point of the grade being released to your training provider, there will be feedback that is provided to that training provider. How they then choose to give that feedback is down to them, whether that's done within a one-on-one session with yourselves or that's shared via email with yourselves, I'm not sure. But you don't need to apply for any feedback. That will go directly to your training provider upon us releasing your results to them as well. We are always open for further discussions as well. So if there is sort of, you know, some further information that your training provider would like around that, we will have that conversation as well with them.
Thank you, Helen. A question from Sarah. Where do we get the revision materials from?
Elaine, do you want to? Oh, sorry, Nia, you go.
I was just going to say, if you're completing like a situational judgment test, we'll send you a link to our learning platform, which has a practice test on there, which you can complete as many times as you'd like. For any other assessment standards, we do include the assessment plan within the confirmation of your booking, so you have that to hand. And then we share any other revision resources with your training provider, who should be able to share those with you ahead of your endpoint assessment. Don't know if anyone else has anything to add. Elaine, Helen.
No, I was just going to say exactly that. The practice test, like Nia said, you're able to go in again and again to keep practicing that, and you should get randomized questions, so you're not constantly answering the same questions. And yes, anything else that we've built in terms of support materials and resources would be sitting with your training provider, so do pick up with them, and they're housed within our platform that we use for them to access as well.
Fantastic, thank you. Sergio, I can see that you've got your hand raised. If you'd like to come off mute and ask your question.
Yeah, for the observation day, requesting two other professionals or to other people in a busy care working environment, it's quite difficult to have two more available people for 1 hour out of work. However, there is one meeting we held. It's called 1111, who actually a group all seniors in my care home, including deputy managers. This is called 1111 because it's 11 in the morning. So I just saw an email that Nia sent me, and look like it's not going to be a problem because I'm planning to help to actually to be the chair of the meeting, because it's with all what you are asking for, you know, more than two professionals, more than two people there, and actually is completely related to what is our work.
We do obviously find that we do appreciate that it's very difficult to ensure that you do have additional people there. I think it's making sure that the activity that you're proposing, and Elaine, jump in if I'm going off on a tangent, but it's the activity you're proposing should allow that to be a fairly easy process for you. In regards to times and dates, if that doesn't match up with what works for your team members, etc., as Nia said, do let us know, because then we can look at how we can be flexible around that as well. You know, our scheduling system matches the availability of the assessors, but we understand that particularly around observations it can be tricky to align everybody at the same time, but hopefully the activity proposal that level 4 and level 5 will be putting forward would be allowing at least 2 members. Elaine, I don't know if you want to elaborate on the actual activity proposals a bit more.
Yeah, so before obviously your gateway is signed off for level 4 and level 5, you have to complete an activity proposal for your observation. So there's a form that you fill in with details around what your observation is going to actually consist of, and that is then checked at gateway by one of our IQAs. And if there's something in there where they feel that you may not meet all the criteria that is required for the observation, then they will get back in touch with the training providers and obviously state the reasons why, and then we can work with you to obviously ensure that your assessment is going to meet the required outcomes of that assessment plan. The observations itself, we don't set the criteria as in how many people need to be there. That comes from above us. That's standard across the board. It's not FuturU's decision that an observation is part of the assessment method. You know, that's done by IFA and Skills for Care and the people who get paid a lot more than what we do to actually deliver qualifications. But our responsibility is to ensure that we follow those assessment plans. So we will adapt where we can to support you to do that. But observation, if it is part of the assessment, then the observation needs to be completed to fulfill the assessment criteria within there. But it's definitely a discussion you can have with your training providers beforehand as to what's going to be suitable. They've done it many a times, just like our assessors have, and they will be able to guide you with some tips around what's going to make a good observation. Because, yeah, as I say, they have done it a lot as well.
Yeah, the requirement, I think it's not a problem. I can meet the requirement with this kind of observation. I want to send all the data that you are asking for. Anyway, is the time of the observation the problem? Because all the time that you send me in the timetables is that if I click, it doesn't actually go to the time we realize we actually do this kind of meeting. And the meeting is very specific because we do medication before 11. We practically finish at 11, and we go straight away to this meeting that is exactly what you are asking for. But it's 1 hour meeting exactly for practically finished for the lunchtime medication or the stuff we need to do. So this exactly is the time the problem. Yeah, but Mia sent me an email saying that I think you can work around this. Yeah. Is I send the specific dates that I want to propose to you guys, so maybe you can be the 11 exactly to this meeting, and don't mess with the care home workers.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, if you're just happy to send me any dates that you are having the meeting on, Sergio, I can check our schedule and then get something confirmed for you for 11 o'clock. That's not a problem.
Super.
So I think just in addition to that, just to emphasize, so we do have obviously a scheduling system, you know, it's generic for everyone, but certainly if there's people above and beyond that having difficulties at matching those times or whatever, just flag it to us, just give Nia an email and we'll look into it and we'll work with your training provider on it as well.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic, thank you. So just a couple more questions. We've got a question from Faith. Please, is the revision materials the same as the mock test or are they different?
I'm not 100% sure what you mean by revision materials. The ones that your training provider has from us are like a PDF version of a mock. They're different to the ones that you'll do when you receive the link from us. The ones when you receive the link, when you've made your booking, that is a mock that's done on the computer, which is the same as how you'll do your official one. Hope that answers that question.
I was just going to add to that as well. The other revision materials that we provide are there to support your training provider to do mock discussions, etc. with you. So they are, I suppose those bits are slightly separate. Is the mock discussions you will have will be led by your training provider with our resource materials as supporting. But yeah, like Elaine said, we provide a paper-based mock multiple choice test, but in addition there's also the online one that you'll get access to as well.
Thank you both. We have one more question from Seema. If I don't pass the mock test, then do I need to give it again? Professional discussion as well. So I think there might be two questions in there, but please correct me if I'm wrong, Seema. So if I don't pass the mock test, I can do it again?
Yes, you can take the mock test as many times as you want to.
Yeah.
And I would encourage you to do more
it
than
as many
one
times. Yeah.
The more you do it, the more use you're going to get to doing that. If you mean, do you need to redo the PD mark if you fail the SJT mark, then no, they're separate things. If you're passing the PD mark, then I'm sure your training provider will be more than happy with that part of the assessment. When it comes to the official one, you must pass the SJT official test before you can do the actual PD for level 2s and level 3s. But in terms of marks, do as many as you can.
Fantastic. Thank you everybody for your questions.
Excuse me, sorry, I don't know, by mistake I left the seminar. I just joined. Yeah, I asked that question about because I gave I think 15 days ago both exams and I didn't pass the mock test, so I got the mail that I didn't pass the mock test. I need more eight marks. But do I need to give professional test as well, again professional discussion?
That would be down to your training provider. If you've passed your professional discussion mark with your training provider, then I wouldn't say that you would need to do it again. But if you're not passing the mock SJT one, then I would encourage you to do as many practice ones as you can actually do.
Sorry, what did you say? Can you repeat it, please?
If you're not passing the mock situation judgment test, then I would encourage you to do as many practice ones as you can. If the PD mock you've passed, then I wouldn't foresee you needing to actually do that again. I'm sure your training provider will be happy that you've passed that part of the assessment for the mocks.
Yeah, okay, no problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Seema. Thank you, everybody. As I mentioned before, I will be sending an email out which will have a recording of this session. So if there's anything that you want to watch again, you can do that. It will also include all of the links that I've shared in the chat and the EPA@FuturU.ai email address in case you need to get in touch with the team if you have any further questions. Then please do send them across. The team is always on hand to help you guys out and remove any stresses and make you feel as confident as you can going into this. Final thing from me, just when you get the email from us, either today or tomorrow morning, there will be a little request for feedback. So you'll be asked to kind of rate the webinar and then you can add feedback. And we'd really appreciate it if you could share your feedback, because we run these webinars on a quarterly basis now, and your feedback really helps us to make sure that they are as useful and relevant to you guys. So we'd really appreciate it if you can spare a couple of minutes to do that. But thank you very much for your time. I think we'll leave it there as we are over time now. Helen, I don't know if you have any closing words.
No, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. I hope you found it beneficial, and like Alex said, please do give us feedback, because it allows us to look at what content we want to add into the next one as well. So yeah, and like I said, the team are on hand. Any questions you have, let us know. We wish you all the best of luck, but do, like Elaine said, believe in yourself, practice lots, ask lots of questions, and you'll be absolutely fine.
Thank you.